In March 2024, I started a special mission for myself of wanting to complete an entire Pokemon game using nothing but shiny Pokemon. So I started a third playthrough of Pokemon Violet, wanting to beat the game in its entirety, including both parts of the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero DLC. And here's how it all went down. Hi there, JKS Plays here, welcoming you to my very first Pokemon Gaming Shiny Badge Quest, with the game of choice being Pokemon Violet. Shiny Badge Quests are a common thing among shiny hunters within the Pokemon community, with the number one rule being quite simple. You can't challenge for a badge until you catch a shiny Pokemon. In the first 8 generations of Pokemon gaming, you would need to catch 8 shinies to challenge for 8 gym badges, but Generation 9 raised the stakes. In Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, there are 18 badges to collect, one for each type, all within the confines of the Paldea region and their 3 different storylines: Victory Road, Operation Starfall, and the Path of Legends. The ultimate goal is to catch 18 shiny Pokemon within the 3 stories, then take the best 6 possible with you on the way home in order to challenge and defeat the final boss. In order to begin a shiny badge quest in any Pokemon game from generations 2 through 7, you would need to toil for hours in order to get yourself a shiny starter. Unfortunately, all the starters in Scarlet and Violet are shiny locked. But I decided to make my first ever Pokemon Gaming Shiny Badge Quest as memorable for me as possible. My first self-imposed rule as I entered Uva Academy for the 3rd time was to get my first shiny Pokemon before reaching Mesagoza. Of course, in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the standard base odds for shiny Pokemon are 1 in 4,096. And to get my journey started, I chose Fuecoco, who was only there for me to do 3 things: defeat Nemona, defeat Arven, and to help me find and eventually catch my first shiny Pokemon for this badge quest. I had no particular first target in mind when I wanted to get my first shiny Pokemon for this badge quest, so I was ready to go for 4 hours or more if needed. Fortunately for me, I only needed 4 minutes. While fishing for items on the ground, I stopped after backtracking, and out of the corner of my eye, I found my first shiny partner of the badge quest, a shiny Scatterbug. After carefully battling the shiny Scatterbug with Fuecoco, I managed to catch it with a trusty Pokeball, and then I can start making final preparations before entering the gates of the city of Mesagoza. For this badge quest, I decided to name every shiny I caught within my journey after a television game show. And with the defense-lowering nature I got with Scatterbug, I decided to name it Jeopardy! For starters, the bug type is considered by many the weakest type in Pokemon. It was finally time for me to enter the gate of this great city of Mesagoza, the largest city in the Paldea region. After entering this city for the first time, I decided to step back from where I came from to put my shiny Scatterbug into a very good training mission, before it eventually evolved into its final evolution. In order for me to stand a chance at getting my first badge, I decided to evolve Jeopardy all the way to Vivillon in preparation for my first badge. Nemona was kind enough to give me a Terra Orb, and I used it for the very first time against a couple of Team Star grunts. Also during the training mission with Vivillon, I taught it the TM for Struggle Bug, and I put it to good use to win its first important battle of the run, in defeating the second Team Star Grunt on one single struggle bug. From there, I met up with Ramona again to get the map area for all 8 gyms in the Paldea region for the Victory Road story to kick off. Then I met with Arvin in the cafeteria to get all 5 map areas where I will battle all the Titans for the Path of Legends storyline. Then I met up with all the students in the Uva Academy schoolyard to officially begin the treasure hunt. Then later on, I was able to get, by a mysterious figure, all 5 spots where the Team Star bosses will be at. And then, after hopping on my trusty sidekick, the awesome box legendary Miraidon, it was finally time to officially start my shiny badge quest. I leveled up Vivillon even more by battling in Terra Raid dens. Then I quickly made up my mind on where to go for my first badge. Onward to the city of Cortundo, where I would take on my first gym in Paldea. The first gym test was the olive roll, and I was able to push it into the goal after struggling a bit, passing my first gym test with flying colors. It was finally time to capture my first badge, as I challenged Bug Gym Leader Katie, who had her own Vivillon that she was feeding but didn't use on her team. So I decided to flex on Katie by using my own shiny Vivillon to sweep her team of bug types. Jeopardy not only is a bug type, it also doubles as a flying type, and it proved to be triple jeopardy for Katie's bugs. 5 gusts later, and I had my first badge in Paldea without breaking a sweat. After obtaining badge number 1, I decided to make my badge quest a no-holds-barred approach. For starters, I did a little bit of Pokemon home switching around to complete the Paldea Region Pokedex. Meeting with Professor Jock in one of the classrooms in Uva Academy, I was able to get heartfelt congratulations and the Shiny Charm, which lowers my odds to 1 in 1,365. After Director Clavel gave me my diploma, I knew exactly which Pokemon I wanted to get the most for my second Shiny in the quest. Since Gardevoir is my favorite Pokemon and one of my channel mascots, I decided to hunt for Shiny Kirlia on a beach near Levincia Town. For the first time in the badge quest, I decided to go the subway route and make a fairy level 1 encounter power sandwich. I knew I needed this psychic fairy type because of its awesome move coverage, which proved to be very valuable down the road in my shiny badge quest. But I was also ready to evolve the shiny Kirlia into a Gallade if it was a male, due to all the traveling I was doing around Paldea, finding a Dawnstone. After 7 sandwich attempts, my chosen one, the shiny Kirlia, finally arrived. I decided to stop, save the game, and gaze upon the beauty of this shiny Kirlia, praying that it was a female, and if it was, I was going to evolve it into Gardevoir at level 30. Now it was time for the capture. After encountering the shiny Kirlia, I had exactly what I wanted, a female with the trace ability, and I proceeded to catch it in my favorite ball of all, the Luxury Ball. After catching shiny Kirlia, I had a team of 2 for the first time in the shiny badge quest. I decided to take on Brashus, the grass-type gym leader in Artisan Town. But after seeing Kirlia had a defense-lowering nature, there were some concerns, but I didn't let it stop me, as I sent Kirlia and Vivillon into battle against Brashus. I found the Icy Wind TM and taught it to Kirlia for the battle in hopes of getting badge number 2. My goal was to have Kirlia sweep the gym in hopes of protecting Vivillon from Sudowoodo. Even though it's a grass Terra, it's still a rock type. And with Vivillon being quad weak to rock, I knew it was going to be a problem if Kirlia was knocked out, which ultimately she was. but Vivillon had one struggle bug left to finish off the fight and earn my second badge of the quest. For my third shiny in the badge quest, and knowing I was going to take on Stony Cliff Titan Claw for my third badge, I decided to make a fighting type level 2 encounter power sandwich in the hopes of getting another shiny mascot. The target, Riolu, who has one of the more adorable golden shinies around, and I know I needed a Lucario down the line. On the first attempt of the sandwich, I did indeed get a shiny fighting type I needed to counter Cloth, but it wasn't Riolu. It was one of the brand new Pokemon from Generation 9, Palmo, who evolves from Palmy to gain the fighting type as it's a pure electric type. And I decided to go ahead and catch it. I decided to use the fastball to capture Palmo and add him to my team. After catching my newest team member, I finally named Curlia after my favorite game show, The Price is Right. When taking a look at Palmo's nature, which ended up being the impish nature, which boosts defense, which could come in handy for what's to come. And while training with Palmo and Mesa Gyoza and taking the 1,000 steps needed to evolve it into Palmot, it spun around my character like a top, so I decided to nickname Palmo Wheel of Fortune. Palmo did not need to buy a vowel in this battle against Stony Cliff Titan Cloth. All it needed to do was use 3 low sweeps for a decisive victory. While Wheel of Fortune and I celebrated our first Titan triumph, we helped Arvin retrieve the Sweet Herba Mystica, and in turn I got my third badge. For shiny number 4 in this badge quest, I decided to take on my first Bass Outbreak, a method in Scarlet and Violet that I relied heavily upon during this entire journey. For my first Bass Outbreak of the badge quest, I needed a fire type for later on, and I decided to go for Charcadet, another Pokemon that debuted in the Paldea region. Since Charcadets are overly aggressive, I needed to find a safe spot to stop and save before encountering the shiny Charcadet. With one of the easier to spot shinies, all you have to do is find the eyes and make sure they're blue. And in this case, the eyes have it. Using a 4th different Pokeball for my 4th shiny, I decided upon the repeat ball since I liked the animation, but there was still plenty of work to be done. So I went all the way to Alfrenader Town, severely underleveled, to take on Wild Sinistea. With 1 Sinistea chip in hand, I needed to get 9 more. And in doing so, after using a lot of X attacks and X speeds, I decided to go to this trader at Zabapico to pick up the Malicious Armor, a new item that debuted in Gen 9 for Pokemon Violet players to evolve their Charcadet into the Fire Ghost type Ceruledge. However, Ceruledge was not needed for badge number 4 as I brought my first 3 shinies over to the Team Star Dark Base. It was time to wipe the second squad off the map. In less than 2 minutes, Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, and The Price is Right, with 1 round of healing, made short work of 30 Pokemon in our very first Star Barrage, which had no other alternative for the boss to come out of hiding. Arriving in style via a tricked-out Revivroom, in comes Team Star Dark Leader Giacomo. His first Pokemon is a Poniard, a Dark Steel type, which made it an easy choice for me to start with Wheel of Fortune, and Palmo decimated Poniard with a quad-effective low sweep, and effectively beat the Starmobile down for our first victory over a Team Star boss. By virtue of sending the Dark Team Starmobile into the scrap heap, it was time to collect badge number 4. Before challenging for my 5th badge and eventually catching my 5th shiny, Price is Right finally evolved into my highly coveted female shiny Gardevoir. A mass outbreak opened up for Cloth, at the exact same spot where I earned my third badge when I defeated the Stony Cliff Titan version. It did take a while, but after a dozen picnic resets after 60 cloth were knocked out, I finally found my second favorite shiny of Generation 9 behind the Titan. Cloths are normally aggressive outside of mass outbreaks, but since this was a mass outbreak, it made it easier for me to stay calm and find a good spot to save while taking a gander at this blue shiny crab. After staring at Cloth for a few seconds, I made my move. During my first playthrough of Violet, after beating the story, I caught my first shiny Cloth by a sparkling power sandwich. But in this shiny badge quest, I'm not relying on sparkling power for any of my sandwiches. And just like the first shiny Cloth, I used a dive ball to catch this one for my fifth partner in the shiny badge quest. And since Rock is super effective against flying, this shiny Pokemon with the first neutral nature of any of my team members was the perfect mon to use to take down my next target, the Open Sky Titan Bombardier, a Gen 9 dark flying type that I simply can't stand to deal with in the wild, especially when I want to do Masuda method egg hunts in Alpernauta Town. So I wanted to put away this foul creature as quickly as possible. Cloth gladly obliged by destroying Bombardier with 2 rock tombs for an easy victory. Helping Arvin retrieve the bitter Urban Mystica, Badge 5 was as good as mine. For my 6th hunt in this Pokemon Violet Shiny Badge quest, I decided to make another sandwich. This time, a Dragon Level 2 Encounter Power sandwich inside a cave near the Ice Wren Shrine. In Pokemon Violet, in this cave, you have 2 Dragon types that appear where you could potentially get a shiny. In this case, it was either the Violet exclusive Bagon or the dragon I was eventually targeting, Gible. I had my Switch zoomed in while looking at all the spawns inside the cave, and from the upper right corner, you can see the shiny Gible just roaming around. It took me a while to figure it out, but eventually I found my new shiny target. Knowing that the Gibles and Bagons are aggressive no matter where you find them, I knew I needed to act fast and reach the shiny. With the combination of The Price is Right and Cerulege, now nicknamed after another one of my favorite game shows, Match Game, I caught shiny Gible in a Heavy Ball, another one of my favorites that has an awesome animation whenever the Pokemon pops out of the Heavy Ball. This shiny Gible had the attack-boosting, defense-lowering, lonely nature. And after a few more Terra Den battling, I evolved Gible into Shiny Gabite and nicknamed it Card Sharks, taking my first full team of 6 in this quest to Levincia and entered the Iono Zone. Iono may be one of my favorite live streamers in the gaming industry, as I decided to wow the viewers, starting with my shiny Cloth, now nicknamed after the game show The $100,000 Pyramid, to take down her watch roll, concerning it's an electric flying type. Using the same ambush tactics that eradicated the Open Sky Titan, Cloth easily handled watch roll, setting the stage for my new team member Card Sharks, who bulldozed his way to a pair of one-hit KOs of both Bellybolt and Luxio. With only her ace Pokemon remaining, Iono called upon my favorite ghost type, Mismagius. With the Levitate ability and terastallizing into electric, Mismagius has 0 weaknesses. But that didn't stop Wheel of Fortune from taking a bite out of any chances of an Iono comeback, earning me a perfect screenshot and my 6th badge in the Violet Shiny Badge quest. Right after getting the Electric Gym Leader Iono's badge, I knew I needed to go for a water type to take on Team Star's Firebase. And almost immediately after leaving Levincia Town, I looked to the water to find an immediate answer. in the form of a shiny blue duck. I was looking to find a spot to make a fairy encounter sandwich again, this time to go for shiny mineral, but this is a random encounter, so I had to take what the game was giving me. Psyduck's evolution doesn't have one of the best shinies in the world, so I went ahead and used the quick ball for the capture, and I don't care. Whatever Pokeball you need that is best for the job, you might as well use it. And in this case, I wanted to get it over with and take advantage of the fact that I now have a water type to take on the Team Star Shutter Squad. Psyduck was my second shiny of the badge quest with a neutral nature, which was perfect, and so was the TM for Rain Dance that I found just outside of the Team Star Fire hideout. I wasted no time in teaching my now fully evolved shiny Golduck, nicknamed after the TV game show Press Your Luck, as a valuable tool in taking down the Team Star Fire base and my favorite boss of Team Star, Mela. At the very start of the fight, Mela brings out her Torkoal, the lead Pokemon that sets up the sun with the Drought ability, which is exactly why I got the Rain Dance TM in the first place. Predictably, Mela's Torkoal sets up the sun with its Drought ability, but Pressure Luck put an end to it by summoning Mother Nature and washing the drought away, powering up its own water pulse to one-shot Torkoal and eventually bring down the Team Starmobile. After taking pathetic damage from Blazing Torque, one more water pulse sealed the deal for my 7th badge in the Violet Shiny Badge Quest. Remember when I said early on that I was taking a no-holds-barred approach in my Pokemon Violet Shiny Badge Quest? Well, that also includes taking a plane and heading to the land of Kitakami in the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero Teal Mask DLC, as I ventured out to Kitakami to find a grass type. A mass outbreak opened up for a certain grass bug type from the Unova region. I decided to jump at the opportunity to find myself a shiny Sawaddle. After knocking out Sawaddle with the shiny charm, increasing my odds in the mass outbreak to 1 in 812, I eventually found my newest shiny partner in the badge quest. The shiny may be barely noticeable, but I have a sharp eye when it comes to doing mass outbreaks, so once again I made my move for the capture. And keeping up with the theme of trying to catch a shiny Pokemon in a different Pokeball, I used the level ball to catch shiny Sawaddle. Sawaddle was my second shiny bug in the badge quest, joining my only full-odd shiny in the run, Vivillon. And just like the shiny Gabite that's currently on the team, Sawaddle has the lonely nature. And after beating a few wild Pokemon and feeding it some berries, I was able to get Sawaddle all the way to its final evolution, Leavanny, which was just in the nick of time for my next badge, and taking on the water gym leader Kofu at Cascarafa. Leading with Veluza, which has the move Pluck, a flying move that is quite effective against Leavanny, I decided to come at Kofu with a seemingly foolproof strategy by going with Protect on turn 1 to bait out Veluza's Pluck, thinking that Veluza outspeeds Leavanny. Then on the next turn, I had Leavanny unleash Fell Stinger, a base 50 power bug move that's 100% accurate, boosting Leavanny's attack up 3 stages after it one-shot Veluza. It was game over from there, as Leavanny took out Wug Trio with a +3 Trailblaze, then eliminated the Water Terra Abominable with a +3 Razor Leaf to pick up my 4th gym badge and 8th overall badge in the quest. For the second straight time in my Violet Shiny Badge quest, I went back to Kitakami to reunite with an old friend, the first shiny Pokemon I ever caught in any Pokemon game, which was Pokemon Gold on the Game Boy Color, and that would be the normal type Sentret. Once again, I took to the mass outbreak method to find shiny Sentret after knocking out 60+. And after finding my first normal type in the Violet Badge quest, it was time to once again make my move after staring at Sentret for a little bit. And there was only one Pokeball I had in mind for the capture. And that, of course, is the Love Ball. No critical capture was needed this time around. This Sentret had the hardy nature, making it the third shiny Pokemon in the quest with a neutral nature. And after more leveling up by battling in Terra Raid dens, Sentret evolved to Furret. The Pokemon I used to catch shiny Sentret was Match Game by Shiny Ceruledge, as it proceeded to solo and knock out the lurking Steel Titan Earthworm. After winning the first phase of the bout with Flame Charge, I used a move taught to Ceruledge by TM Lava Plume, which was not only good enough to knock out Earthworm, it also finished off Arven's Toedscool in one hit. This was the third win over a Titan, which allowed Arven to pick up the salty Herba Mystica and hand me my 9th badge in the quest. Continuing on my Pokemon Violet Shiny badge quest, I was able to finally evolve Wheel of Fortune into its final evolution after finally taking the 1,000 steps needed to evolve into Pawmot. More on Pawmot later on. While hopping on the Rhydon to swim across water and unlock some spots on the Paldea map that I hadn't before, like Secluded Beach here at this Poke Center, I got an unexpected gift in the form of another shiny random encounter. I already had a fighting type on my team in shiny Pawmot, but now I got a second one. It's shiny Cabrawler. It was nighttime, so I decided to catch Cabrawler in a Dusk Ball, making it the 10th straight shiny in this quest where I used a different Pokeball each time. With the bad luck I was getting on defense-lowering natures, this shiny Cabrawler, which I nicknamed off the game show Tattletales, ended up with a special defense boosting nature, lowering its attack. And while finding an Ice Stone, unlocking another spot to fly to in the future in Glaciata's Grasp, I was able to evolve my shiny Tattletales immediately into shiny Crabominable, making it a fighting ice type. And speaking of fighting, that's the one weakness of this normal type gym leader, everyone's favorite everyday man, Larry. Doing all that traveling around Paldea gave Pawmot the Treasure Hunter nickname, meaning it now has the item finder mark for picking up many items on the ground. And speaking of finding things, I found the perfect strategy to build upon, taking on Larry's lead Pokemon, Kamala. I decided to use Bulk Up to build up Pawmot's attack and defense. It took a slam on turn 1, so I used a second Bulk Up knowing Kamala loves to go for Yawn. Then I decided on a third Bulk Up, and taking slam once again, it put my Pawmot to sleep, but only for a few seconds, because I gave Pawmot a held Chesto Berry. I immediately terrestrialized into fighting, and it was checkmate. I also taught Wheel of Fortune to TM Brick Break right before the fight, and at +3 attack and defense, there was nothing Larry can do from stopping Pawmot from turning Medali into Brick Break City. As Kamala, the Dunsparce, and normal Terra Staraptor all went down to 3 consecutive Brick Breaks for my 5th gym badge in the quest. I was finally at double digits with badge number 10. While thinking on where to go next, hey look! Miraidon can breakdance while doing handstands! And now back to the Pokemon Violet Shiny Badge quest, as I decided on looking for a flying type. Since I didn't have one at the time, out of the 10 shinies I've got so far, for number 11, I didn't have to look far, as I did a mass outbreak for Rookidee. But I didn't get shiny Rookidee in a mass outbreak. It just showed up in a pack with a Corvisquire. Rookidee is one of my top 3 regional birds of all time in Pokemon, as it debuted in the Galar region playing Pokemon Sword and Shield. So I knew I needed one because it evolves into the Steel-type Corviknight for its final evolution. My My streak of catching shiny Pokemon in different Pokeballs continued for this quest as I used a Heal Ball for shiny Rookie. My next choice for my 11th badge was going to be the Quaking Earth Titan Iron Treads, which is exclusive to Pokemon Violet. Pokemon Scarlet players get Great Tusk instead, a ground fighting type. After more Terra Raid farming for EXP candies, I managed to evolve Rookidee all the way to Shiny Corviknight. I named it Family Feud off another one of my favorite game shows, then immediately changed it after getting a shiny Pokemon later on in the run, and you'll see what I mean later. Now on to the battle with Iron Treads. Because of this futuristic Donphan's high attack stack, I relied on a tag team approach to take it down, starting with my shiny Levani, which I nicknamed after the game show lingo, by using 2 charms to lower its attack to -4. The first phase ended with a resounding Hydro Pump boosted by Rain Dance from Pressure Luck, my shiny Golduck, and immediately prepared for the second phase. I started with Levani again to lower its attack by 2 stages with Charm, but this time I didn't go with Golduck. I beat 5 trainers in the Asado Desert to get the TM for Earthquake, which of course I taught my shiny Gabite Card Sharks. Earthquake proved to be destructive right away, as it one-shot Arvin Scovillain. 2 more Quakes later, and down went the Quaking Earth Titan Iron Treads for my 4th victory over a Titan in the Pokemon Violet Shiny Badge Quest. After Arvin and I claimed the Sour Urban Mystica, it was onward to move on to Shiny and Badge number 12. A little bit of a foreshadowing tribute to what will be my 12th Shiny in this quest, and eventually my 12th badge as well, as I ran into a mass outbreak for my favorite ghost of all time. Actually, it's evolved form, but I still like shiny Misdreavus. And after a few minutes, I was able to find the shiny Misdreavus. For my plans of catching Misdreavus, ghosts cannot be hit with False Swipe, but there is a way around it. For starters, I used my shiny Golduck, Pressure Luck, with Soak to turn Misdreavus into a water type by dousing Misdreavus with water. Then I used my shiny Match Game Ceruledge with False Swipe to weaken it. And before catching Misdreavus, I relied on my shiny Price is Right Gardevoir to finally catch Misdreavus in a Dream Ball. Using Hypnosis to put Misdreavus to sleep was critical, as my streak of catching shiny Pokemon in different Pokeballs continued to 12. This Misdreavus had a speed-lowering nature, but another defense-boosting nature. As I reached Montenevera to challenge for my next badge, I evolved Misdreavus with a Duskstone hidden right behind the gym, and I had my shiny Mismagius. But that wasn't the only evolution, as my shiny Card Shark's Gabite finally reached level 48 to evolve the Garchomp, which was perfect for taking on the MIC of RIP, Ghost Gym Leader Rhyme. This is the only gym battle in Paldea that is a double battle, which makes it sometimes difficult to prepare than a singles battle. Upon evolution, Garchomp learns the dark move Crunch, which I used on the first turn to break the disguise of one of Rhyme's leads, Mimikyu. And once Match Game 1 hit KO's Banette, it sets up this gym's gimmick. Whenever one of your Pokemon knocks out an opposing Pokemon, both your Pokemon get a boost to their attack and special attack. A +1 Crunch eliminates Houndstone from the equation, and another Shadow Claw from Match Game takes out Mimikyu, leaving Rhyme with only her ace Pokemon once it terrestrializes into a Ghost Terra, Toxtricity. But both Garchomp and Ceruledge are now at a +2 in attack and special attack. Not that I needed to, I terrestrialized Ceruledge into Terra Fire to eliminate its Ghost weakness, but Garchomp was the fastest Pokemon on the field, as one more Crunch finishes off Toxtricity, earning me my 6th gym badge. It was a dominant performance worthy of a thumbs up from Rhyme, and my 12th badge in the quest. Early on in the badge quest, I tried to go for one of my shiny mascots, Riolu, but with a fighting level 2 encounter power sandwich at South Province Area 2, I ended up getting shiny Palmo instead. Even though I had 2 fighting types and a steel type out of the 12 shinies I've gotten so far, I was desperate. I even learned the back jump technique with Miraidon to help me get to an area at South Province Area 4 where a Riolu mass outbreak popped up. After knocking out 60 Riolu, I was never leaving this area, even if it took me the entire week until I found my golden ticket to where I was going for next for my 13th badge. Per the custom in my Violet Shiny Badge quest, I stopped and saved to lock in the fact that Shiny Riolu has finally arrived, and I was also on a current streak of catching shiny Pokemon in different Pokeballs throughout the entire run, 12 in a row, and I had the perfect ball I wanted to use to catch Riolu for number 13, which was hardly lucky. Since Riolu evolves to Lucario by high friendship, it only made sense to catch this shiny Riolu in a friend ball. A critical capture on the only friend ball I had in the bag, and I had my shiny mascot number 2 in this badge quest. This Riolu, which debuted in the Sinnoh region, came with the attack-boosting Brave nature, which also lowered Riolu's speed, which wasn't a problem for what I had planned for my 13th badge. And after an intense training mission and one final vacuum wave of a wild Orthworm, I finally had my shiny Lucario. With this Pokemon now on my all-shiny squad, Lucario is the key to unlocking the perfect strategy of taking down Team Star Poison Master Atticus. His lead Pokemon Skuntank only has 3 moves, 2 of which can't even touch Lucario due to Lucario's steel immunity to poison. The only move Skuntank can hit Lucario with is the dark move Sucker Punch, which only has 5 power points. So the obvious goal was to stall Skuntank into using all 5 Sucker Punches. In doing so, I built up Lucario's attack all the way to +6 and its speed to +4 with 2 agilities and 3 swords dances. And once Skuntank was out of Sucker Punches, I did 1 more agility to boost Lucario's speed to a full +6, where Skuntank hopelessly used Toxic. Teaching Lucario the ground move Bulldoze by TM made this Team Star boss battle ridiculously academic, as Skuntank, Revavroom, Muck, and the Poison Starmobile all got shot down in 1 hit for a flawless victory, and my 13th badge in the Violet Shiny Badge quest. Despite having 2 shiny bug types and 1 shiny electric type in my collection, I still felt that wasn't enough. So I went back to Kitakami for the 3rd and final time in my Violet Shiny Badge quest to go after Charjabug in a mass outbreak. After knocking out over 60 and nearly 2 hours of searching, I was able to find my newest shiny Spark Plug. With 5 Thunderstones in tow, I knew I needed a shiny Vikavolt for not only where I was going to next for my 14th badge in this quest, but for long-term purposes. For those who aren't in the know, Vikavolt has a very high special attack stat, even higher than my favorite Pokemon Gardevoir at base 145. So this bug packs a powerful punch, and I caught this shiny Charjabug in the Safari Ball to continue my streak of catching shiny Pokemon in different Pokeballs to 14 straight. And to make matters even better, this Charjabug came with the serious neutral nature. I immediately used one of my 5 Thunderstones to evolve shiny Charjabug into Vikavolt, naming it after the game show Hollywood Squares, as I went back to Alfornada Town to take on Psychic Gym Leader Tulip. where I brought in all 3 of my shiny bugs into battle. I started out this bout with Lingo, my shiny Leavanny, against Farigiraf. And 2 X scissors later, I set up my date with Destiny. That's right, it's a Gardevoir mirror match, as I brought in Price is Right, my shiny Gardevoir, to deal with Tulip's own Gardevoir. I earned the Ghost TM Shadow Ball after defeating Rhyme out in Montenevera, and I taught it to Gardevoir, using 2 of them to take out Tulip's Gardevoir to win the mirror match. Gardevoir's performance sets the stage for my newest member to my shiny team, Vikavolt. Hollywood Squares tanked 2 Psychics before destroying Espathra with a powerful Bug Buzz. The first shiny Pokemon I caught before beginning my treasure hunt, Vivillon, was back on the scene. After eating a Moonblast, Vivillon's Terrestrialized Bug Buzz wiped out Psychic Terraflorges for the victory, and my 7th gym badge. A satisfying win for bug types everywhere, and my 14th badge in the quest. For my 15th shiny in this badge quest, I was able to get a mass outbreak for one of the most popular Pokemon of all time, Eevee. The process of finding shiny Eevee in a mass outbreak was tedious, because only 6 were spawning on screen, where you can mainly get 15 different Pokemon on screen, as I was doing the town reset method to try to get more Eevees to spawn on screen near Medali Town. However, I remained patient and persistent. Eventually, shiny Eevee popped up on screen. Just my 2nd normal type shiny in the quest, following Sentret, now a fully evolved Furret. Unfortunately, this is where my streak of catching shiny Pokemon in different Pokeballs ended. I was going for a Moonball, but accidentally misclicked and used my 2nd of 2 Dream Balls. But since this quest was on its 7th day, I accepted fate and took the shiny Eevee along with me. How appropriate that this shiny Eevee had the relaxed nature, which was exactly how I was feeling throughout the entire mass outbreak. With 4 badges left to collect, 2 Team Star bosses and 1 Titan, I decided to take on this last gym to qualify for the Pokemon League, as I went to Glaciato Mountain to take on Ice-type gym leader Grusha. For the 2nd straight gym, I decided to use 4 different Pokemon for this gym battle, starting with Tattletales, which is making its debut. The shiny Crabominable defeated Frostmoth with 1 close combat, and since both its defenses were lowered, I decided to switch to Pyramid, my shiny Cloth. Due to Frostmoth's Tailwind, Beartic was able to strike first with Earthquake, but Cloth took it like a champ before defeating Beartic with 2 straight super effective hits, Rock Slide followed by a Metal Claw. In came Pawmot, my shiny Wheel of Fortune, to take out Titan with 1 swift Brick Break. For the final showdown, I brought out Match Game, my shiny Ceruledge, terrestrializing into fire, clicking on its signature move Bitter Blade to deliver a decisive 1-hit KO of Ice Terra Altaria for my 8th and final gym badge. I now earned the right to challenge the Pokemon League, but my dreams of becoming Paldea's new top champion will have to wait until I get 3 more shinies and 3 more badges. My Pokemon Violet badge quest rolls on. To officially kick off my next hunt, I evolved shiny Eevee into Umbreon, nicknaming it after the game show Tic-Tac-Doe, for my first dark shiny. I was also in need of a poison shiny, so I took to Cassowary Lake, considering Croagunk and Toxicroak were in this area. Once again, I decided to take what the game gave me, as by virtue of a random encounter, I found a Violet exclusive Gulpin in a pack with a Swalot, and one of the Gulpin decided to show up shiny. I had never used Gulpin or a Swalot in a Pokemon playthrough before, so I wanted to give this Pokemon a chance. And taking a cue from Team Star Poison boss Atticus, I caught this shiny Gulpin in a timer ball. In my first playthroughs of Scarlet and Violet, both during and post-game, Casseroya Lake was the leading place for me to get random encounter shiny Pokemon, and it paid dividends for me once again in this badge quest, as I caught a shiny Gulpin with the gentle nature, a special defense boosting and defense lowering nature. I immediately fed it a rare candy to evolve Gulpin into Swalot and nicknamed it after the Nickelodeon game show Double Dare. Poison is one of the 2 weaknesses suffered by fairy types, which made it a logical decision to go after Team Star Fairy boss Ortega next. Fairy's other weakness is the steel types, so I brought out my newly nicknamed password, the Shiny Corviknight, which was formerly nicknamed after one of my all-time favorite game shows, Family Feud. I started off this bout by lowering Azumarill's defense by 2 stages with Screech. Azumarill retaliated by lowering the attack of Corviknight with Charm, and after being lowered down to 4 HP, I brought out the new Family Feud, Shiny Lucario. After taking a play rough, I made the call for Lucario to use Meteor Mash. Family Feud responded brilliantly with a critical hit to wipe out Azumarill, then immediately one-hit KO'd Wigglytuff as well. Unfortunately, the attack triggered Wigglytuff's cute charm, so it was time for Double Dare to take center stage for the first time. After taking the crunch and having its attack lowered by Baby Doll Eyes, the special attacking Sludge Bomb from Swalot was enough to put down Dodge Bun, and against the Team Fairy Starmobile, I decided to come up with a secret weapon. Holding a Lumberry after being confused by Confuse Ray and hitting a Sludge Bomb, I decided for Shiny Swalot to use the move Belch, a powerful poison move that is only accessible after eating a berry. That dealt the final blow to send the 4th Starmobile into the scrap heap, and Ortega had no choice but to surrender my 16th badge in the quest. I had no prior target in mind for my 17th shiny in my first badge quest, but after getting another random encounter, I was greeted by a shiny I was extremely familiar with, due to catching several shiny Bergmite in Pokemon Legends Arceus. After taking a quick check to make sure my shiny Ceruledge had False Swipe in its moveset, I immediately jumped at the opportunity that presented itself. For this shiny in the badge quest, I decided to use the Premier Ball for a critical capture. Bergmite and its evolved form Avalugg are notoriously known for having a high defense and a low special defense. I now had a second ice shiny out of the 17 caught in this badge quest, and it had another neutral nature. After quickly evolving shiny Bergmite and nicknaming it after the game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, it was time for me to head back to Casseroya Lake to challenge the False Dragon Titan. 3 sparks from Wheel of Fortune, my shiny Palmont ended the first part of the battle with Dondozo, one of many Pokemon you can encounter in the treacherous waters of Casseroya Lake. Considering the last 2 Titan battles featured accidentally knocking out 2 of Arven's Pokemon, I decided to make a pact with Arven to not let it happen a 3rd straight Titan battle during Phase 2 against Dondozo, as I brought out Lingo, my shiny Leavanny. With the combination of Arven's Greedent weakening the defense of Dondozo with 2 Tail Whips, and lowering Dondozo's attack with Leavanny's Charm, I decided to terrestrialize into Terra Grass, and with 1 Swords Dance boost, a swift Leaf Blade knocked out the False Dragon Titan, forcing to summon the real Dragon Titan, the Dragon Water-type Tatsugiri. I decided to bring out Price is Right, my shiny Gardevoir, and immediately terrestrialized into Fairy, weakening the Tatsugiri with 2 powerful Moonblast. And after taking an Icy Wind, Arven's Greedent was able to get the KO with a powerful takedown. Greedent also survived recoil damage to itself, as I was able to celebrate my 5th and final victory over a Titan in the Path of Legends storyline. Arven picked up the spicy Urban Mystica, and I collected my 17th badge with 1 more to go. The one missing ingredient in my Pokemon Violet Shiny Badge quest was a shiny starter Pokemon. So I went to the fanciest restaurant in Leventia Town, had myself an Egg Power Level 2 feast to set up for the one method I hadn't done all throughout the entire run, a Masuda Method Egg Hunt for a shiny starter. As you know, Fuecoco, Sprigatito, and Quaxley at the beginning of the game are shiny lock. But I didn't want any of those three for the final piece to the puzzle of what will ultimately be the team I was going to have carry me through the Elite Four, the Champion Battle, and the final boss. I brought over a Foreign Ditto and a Beast Ball Greninja I caught after winning one of the special 7-star Terra Raid events in Scarlet and Violet for Shiny Froakie. I only prepared 127 eggs, and this is what happened on Egg 96. A very sudden shiny Froakie hatched from its egg. Masuda Method egg odds in Scarlet and Violet are 1 in 683 without the shiny charm, and 1 in 512 with the shiny charm, which I was working on due to my no-holds-barred approach in this shiny badge quest. This Froakie came with the awesome protein ability and another neutral nature. For the final stretch run, I went back to the area near the Team Star Ferry base up at North Province Area 3, made a level 1 normal encounter power sandwich to KO some Chanseys and Blissies to level up Froakie all the way to Shiny Greninja. With final preparations done, I hurriedly made my way through the dangerous bamboo forest at North Province Area 2, picked up a few helpful items along the way, and set myself up for the 5th and final Team Star base. With my carefully constructed team specifically designed for this battle alone, it was time to wipe the Cap Squad off the map for my 18th and final badge. The 5th boss of Team Star was Airy, a fighting type master with a team of Pokemon that hit hard first and ask questions later. So I started with one of my special attacking heavy hitters, my shiny Gardevoir. Since Airy's Pokemon is Toxicroak, a fighting poison type, I let Gardevoir unleash the first devastating blow of the match with a quad-effective Psychic for a one-hit KO. Then I brought out one of my best defenders, Password, my shiny Corviknight. It ate a close combat from Annihilate before eliminating that threat with a Drill Peck. After tanking another close combat, a powerful critical hit Brave Bird wiped out Passimian. Since Airy's final Pokemon before the Starmobile was her own Lucario, I decided to go for another flex job. It was time to play the feud with my own shiny Lucario, and the survey says Drain Punch was the #1 answer to be victorious. After starting this fight, I let the Price is Right finish it, with one more Terrestrialized Moonblast from Gardevoir, seemingly putting an end to Team Star once and for all. The significance of this victory was that Airy showered me with some well-deserved respect and my 18th and final badge in the quest. It was time to finish this story. With all 18 badges and a shiny Pokemon for each one to show for it, it was full speed ahead for the rest of my journey. I defeated Arven and his revitalized Mabostiff to complete the Path of Legend storyline. Then it was on to finish Operation Starfall. With an awesome display of assorted Pokemon specifically tailor-made for the important battles down the road, 2 of the 3 important stories in Pokemon Violet were complete. But for me to reach the end of my victory road, there was only room for these 6. The Price is Right, my shiny Luxury Ball Gardevoir with the moves Moonblast, Shadow Ball, Energy Ball, and Psychic. Family Feud, my Friend Ball shiny Lucario with Brick Break, Meteor Mash, Earthquake, and Zen Headbutt. Match Game, my shiny Repeat Ball Ceruledge with Bitter Blade, Shadow Claw, Night Slash, and Iron Head. Loteria Loca, my shiny Beast Ball Greninja with Water Shuriken, Dark Pulse, Ice Beam, and Toxic Spikes. Card Sharks, my shiny heavy ball Garchomp with Earthquake, Poison Jab, Dragon Claw, and Stealth Rock. And finally, Hollywood Squares, my shiny Safari Ball Vikavolt with Flash Cannon, Thunderbolt, Bug Buzz, and Energy Ball. The stars were properly aligned as I made my way to the Pokemon League. And once I met with top champion Gita, the second I entered through that door to take my champion assessment, there was no turning back. At this point of my very first ever badge quest, I treated it now almost like a Nuzlocke. So if any of my 6 Pokemon fainted, I would never use it again for the remainder of this Violet Shiny badge quest. So I was ready and willing to go all out with my stacked Shiny team, equipping them with the best TMs possible throughout the entire run that I thought was beneficial in order to become the newest champion in Paldea. Greninja hard carried against Rika and her ground types, while the trio of Ceruledge, Lucario, and Garchomp destroyed Poppy's steel types. Vikavolt and Gardevoir were the MVPs against Larry and Hassel respectively, as I was able to mow down the Elite Four without suffering a single loss of a team member. In order to establish team harmony, I made sure all 6 of my team members got a chance to shine, literally, as I took my final test in battling top champion Gita for the right to become the newest champion of Paldea. The final results proved to be exactly how I imagined it, as every single Pokemon on my team scored a KO in this fight. Even Gardevoir scored a crit with a Thunderbolt to knock out Veluza, impressing even champion Gita. The final KO belonged to my shiny Garchomp, as a terrestrialized Earthquake was too much for Gita's Ace Glimora to handle, showering the field with toxic spikes and earning me the right to call myself Paldea's new champion. But I was not done yet. I immediately got challenged by the previous champion Nemona, and the result was the same as before, as all 6 Pokemon scored a KO, with Vikavolt delivering the final blow to the Alscarada, and I became the ultimate champion of Paldea, earning some high praise from Nemona, completing the Victory Road storyline. But I had little time to rest, let alone celebrate, as I got an important call from Arwen, taking me to Area 0. No longer my trusty sidekick, now my #1 companion, Miraidon was able to take me, Arven, Nemona, and Penny on anything but a joyride, as we made it all the way to the deepest part of Area 0 for the final showdown with the final boss, Professor Turo. Turo's team is fully loaded with Paradox Pokemon of the future, making this last bout anything but a cakewalk. I knew I needed to bring my A-game for this final showdown, or else. The first Pokemon Turo sent out was the futuristic Volcarona, the Fire Poison Iron Moth, a special attacking behemoth. So I knew I needed to start the battle with Garchomp, considering Moth is quad weak to ground. An early critical hit Earthquake scored the first KO of the bout. Knowing that Garchomp is quad weak to ice, Turo sent out Iron Bundle, a futuristic Delibird, next. I countered with Hollywood Squares, my shiny Vikavolt, and one swift Thunderbolt instantly put Bundle down for the count. Card Sharks was brought back in to deal with Turo's third Paradox Pokemon, the Rock Electric type Iron Thorns, a futuristic Tyranitar, another Pokemon that is quad weak to ground. The Thorns can't handle the tremors from underneath its feet, scoring another easy victory for the Chomp, who I kept in the battle to deal with another scarier, bulkier Pokemon, the futuristic Hariyama Iron Hands. Despite faking out Garchomp and getting a flinch, it still went down to a single Earthquake. Once again, it was time to play the feud as I brought in Shiny Lucario to deal with the futuristic Hydreigon, Iron Jugulis. In hindsight, it was probably a bad idea, as Jugulis outsped Lucario and hit a powerful flamethrower that brought Lucario down to under half its HP. Lucario clapped back with an Ice Punch, but knowing Lucario could not take another flamethrower, I immediately subbed out to a Pokemon that's immune to fire due to its Flash Fire ability. I was still taking a risk bringing in Match Game my shiny Ceruledge to deal with Jugulis. Even though Ceruledge absorbed the flamethrower, one of Iron Jugulis' types is Dark, so I knew a Dark Pulse was coming. Somehow Ceruledge lived to tail the tail, And now the Bitter Blade was slightly boosted due to Flash Fire, which was just enough to eliminate Iron Juggless. And now the stage was set for the true final showdown, as I brought in Price is Right, my shiny Gardevoir, to deal with Toro's final and most dangerous Pokemon, the Gardevoir Gallade Futuristic Fusion Iron Valiant, who immediately gets its attack heightened by holding a booster energy, activating its Quirk Drive. And since Shiny Gardevoir's Terra is Fairy and not Psychic, I knew Iron Valiant was going to strike Gardevoir down with a super effective Poison Jab. The question was, how super effective can it be? Unbelievable. It was a critical hit that brought Gardevoir down to her last hit point. With the blessing of Arceus and the power of friendship forged at the beginning of this treasure hunt, not only did Gardevoir survive without a Focus Sash, she did not get poisoned. On this final Moonblast, Toro was forced to acknowledge there's no better time than the here and now. And with that decisive blow, I can truly say that I have conquered a Pokemon Gaming Shiny Badge quest, thanks to Gardevoir's dramatic triumph over Iron Valiant, proving that the price is always right. The final curtain call belonged to Miraidon, as the legendary was able to pull out a miraculous comeback victory of its own to defeat its bully brother, vanquish the Paradise Protection Protocol, and put an abrupt end to the tyrannic ways of AI Professor Toro. The first part of this long journey through the entirety of Pokemon Violet was over. 18 badges, 18 different shiny Pokemon, and yet, as I left Area Zero heading back home, I was far from satisfied. After saving the Paldea region from certain destruction, I wanted to grow even stronger as both a Pokemon battler and a shiny hunter, leaving me with only one option. For more on that, let's run it back to when I first visited the land of Kitakami. With only 4 shiny Pokemon to my name at the time in Cerulege, Vivillon, Palmo, and Kirlia, I received an earlier than expected phone call while over at the land of Kitakami from Director Clavel over at Uva Academy, offering me the opportunity of a lifetime to step out of my Paldea comfort zone and head to the famed Unova region to be an exchange student at Blueberry Academy. I was instantly hooked, so I immediately went to Uva Academy to find out what's going on when I was confronted by Blueberry Academy Director Serrano. Apparently, my desire for wanting to be a better Pokemon trainer and shiny hunter was no longer a best-kept secret. So with the blessing of Clavel, I left with Serrano for just a week to head over to Blueberry Academy. I wanted to find out what it was all about. So with a simple soccer hat trick from Serrano himself, it was onward to the Unova region. After another long, tiresome plane ride, I have officially arrived in the Unova region, wanting to get just a small taste of that Blueberry Academy life. And I gotta say, I love the atmosphere here. Just look at how beautifully this academy was crafted, even over a large body of water. As I continued to take it all in and breathe in that Unova fresh air, I was promptly introduced by a second-year student at Blueberry Academy by the name of Lacey. And right on cue, Lacey granted me full access to the Blueberry Academy's entrance battle court. It was right at that moment I found out that Blueberry Academy is unlike Uva Academy, putting a strong emphasis on Pokemon battles, which is right up my alley. Serrano immediately insisted I battle Lacey to get to further know her, and even spilled the beans that she's not only a BB League Elite Four member, that she is the daughter of a Unova region gym leader. And I gotta agree with Lacey, that's just not right. Serrano's curiosity had to know if I was tough enough, so Lacey and I had no choice but to go with the battle as planned. Lacey also gave me a fair, friendly warning that the Blueberry Academy focuses on double battles, something that I was not used to in Paldea at that time, and it showed when I came into this battle severely underleveled, as Lacey's level 70 plus Mine and tag team completely destroyed my shiny partners. I was in way over my head when I accepted this challenge, but Lacey shrugged it off, thinking that she barely defeated me, even though clearly I was dominated by her plus Mine. Then I started to question myself if I was good enough to even want to come back to Blueberry Academy. However, Serrano told me not to worry about it and gave me a Blueberry Academy uniform set, which I gladly accepted, and Lacey thought it fit me to a T. Expressing even more gratitude for even me wanting to take the tour, Serrano gave me an Indigo style card, and then they introduced me to the best part about the Indigo Disc DLC, the state-of-the-art terrarium. I immediately fell in love with it once I saw what was inside. While walking in the terrarium for the first time, Lacey told me that there are 4 distinct biomes, including the first one that was already in view, the Savanna biome. The one that I liked the most, the Coastal biome. The one where I knew I had to do a lot of climbing just to find future shiny partners, the Canyon biome. And the place that I felt had 2 of the most important Pokemon I needed on my journey, the Polar biome. And that sums up my early tour of Blueberry Academy. I wasn't going to return until I became a stronger trainer than I was when I came in, and that's exactly what I told Lacey, despite the fact that she offered me a quick glance at a class at the Coastal biome. I promised myself, my Pokemon, and even Lacey herself, that when I returned, I wasn't coming to Blueberry Academy to take part. I was coming back to Blueberry Academy to take over. But until then, it was back to Paldea for some more shiny hunting and more serious battling. Now, with 18 shiny Pokemon and fully classified as a champion in the Paldea region, I returned to the land of Kitakami, wanting to become even stronger by helping out the Kitakami siblings Carmine and Kieran in helping clear the name and the legacy of the legendary Pokemon Ogerpon. With Carmine's help in defeating Monkey Dory, Okidoki, and Pheasantipity, the Loyal 3, I was able to retrieve all 3 masks for Ogerpon, deeming me worthy of the opportunity of battling, defeating, and catching Ogerpon in a Beast Ball. But my time in Kitakami was not done just yet. I returned to the Loyalty Plaza and noticed that the Loyal 3 monument was destroyed. So I decided to pitch in by donating $1 million of my winnings throughout the entire run of the Paldea region and the Kitakami story in order for the monument to be properly restored. Before I returned back to Paldea as champion, I decided to witness the resurrection of the Loyal 3 monument, and the caretaker gave me something nice to wear in the form of the flashy Jinbei, which is perfect wardrobe for a shiny hunter like myself. Returning to Paldea as champion, I felt the need to hunt for 2 more shiny Pokemon to put me at an even 20. As you noticed by my channel art, which was graciously written for me by awesome artist and streamer Ember Z Painter, I did not have a shiny Luxray or a shiny Lurantis as part of my shiny badge quests, so I felt the need to hunt for both of them, starting with Luxray back in Paldea. For the first time throughout the entire run during my no-holds-barred approach, I used Herba Mystica for a level 2 encounter power electric sandwich. which increased the opportunity of me seeing more Luxray, solo or in a pack with Shinx, at North Province Area 2. Only 5 minutes into my first sandwich attempt, I found my third shiny channel mascot in Luxray. A shiny I fell in love with when I caught my first shiny Shinx and evolved it all the way to Luxray while playing Pokemon Legends Arceus, which to this day is still my favorite Pokemon game. A lot of aggressive wild Pokemon reside in the North Province Area 2, and Luxray just so happens to be one of them. So I knew I needed to act quick, knowing that Luxray doesn't have a self-inflicted move that could eventually fade itself. Just like I did with Gardevoir early on in my shiny badge quest, I caught this shiny Luxray in a Luxury Ball, which is my favorite Pokeball of choice when catching many shiny Pokemon. Not sure if I was going to use Luxray at any point when I returned to the Blueberry Academy, but at least I had another shiny channel mascot, which came with the defense-boosting impish nature, and it also came with a special sleepy time mark. Another thing I loved about this Luxray is that it was proud of its power. As I decided to show off my flashy Jinbei for the first time in Montenevera, I saw a mass outbreak in Kitakami for another one of my channel mascots, technically the first form of it being Fomantis. And on my first attempt of a grass level 2 encounter power sandwich, on the 15th minute of it, I was able to find my fourth and final shiny channel mascot, when it evolves, of course. Trying to hunt for a shiny Pokemon in a mass outbreak at the Apple Orchard near the Loyalty Plaza is no easy feat, but I was able to find shiny Fomantis after all. The shiny is easily noticeable once it spawns on screen. I tried desperately to catch it in a Beast Ball, but with the low percentage rate, that wasn't happening. So for the first time throughout this shiny-only run of Pokemon Violet, I used a more appropriate ball for the shiny, a Nest Ball. I now have all 4 of my shiny Pokemon channel mascots, as this Fomantis came with the special defense boosting sassy nature. And after feeding this Fomantis one rare candy, I was able to add a shiny Lurantis for my 20th shiny in this long run of Pokemon Violet. As my last official act in the Paldea region for a while before returning to the Unova region for some unfinished business, I decided to assist top champion Gita by inspecting all 8 Paldea gyms, which meant taking on the gym leaders once again in rematches. This afforded me the chance to showcase all 20 shiny Pokemon during all 8 gym leader rematches, rotating them in and out of various battles. I even helped out one of my favorite gym leaders in Iono back at Levencia Town by pumping up the crowd with my awesome display of battling. In doing so, it also gained Iono a bunch of new subscribers during that live stream. Now this gives me the opportunity to tell you my plan for when I return to the Blueberry Academy for this now shiny-only run of Pokemon Violet. When I returned to Blueberry Academy and before I decided to challenge the BB League Elite Four, I needed to catch not 1, not 2, but 10 shinies for a full box of 30 shiny Pokemon for this run, continuing also to nickname them after my favorite television game shows. I named my shiny Luxray off of the game show Blockbusters, while also nicknaming my shiny Lurantis after the game show High Rollers in tribute to the fact that one of Lurantis' moves learned by leveling up is Leaf Storm. Another self-imposed rule that I placed upon myself as I returned to the terrarium was to not feed any of my shiny Pokemon vitamins to increase their stats, even though I can still level all of them up to 100, knowing how tough the battles are in the Blueberry Academy. As I wrap up my run of defeating all 8 gym leaders in rematches in Paldea, I saved the best one, in my opinion, for last, in Psychic Gym Leader Tulip. As Miss Maggie has scored the final KO of her Psychic Terraflorges with Shadow Ball, it was time for me to start making my final preparations for returning to Unova. In closing, Tulip left me with a heartfelt farewell message to simply not fade away. She wanted to see how far I could go as a trainer. Another promise made, and a promise I fully intend to keep. Right before departing Paldea, I did some more organizing in Pokemon Home to complete both the Kitakami and Blueberry Pokedexes. Then I was headed back to Kitakami, where I met up with one of my professors in Uva Academy who just so happened to be there, Professor Jock, who was astounded by the fact that I completed the Kitakami Pokedex so quickly. So I was honored with another diploma and received the Glittering Charm, which increases the number of Terra Shards you get while completing and winning 3 through 6-star Terra Raid battles. Now back in the Unova region, I met up with Director Serrano over at Blueberry Academy to show him that I completed the Blueberry Pokedex. In return, I was able to get the Mark Charm, which greatly increases the odds of finding a Pokemon with a mark. Director Clavel even showed up and gave me yet another diploma. What can I say? I like things that sparkle. While making a pit stop over at Central Plaza, I found out from a teacher that there was some drama going on within the BB League Club, and I had no idea what the BB League Club stood for at the time. All I wanted to do was head to an area at the plaza to pick up my favorite new TM that debuted in the Indigo Disc DLC, Psychic Noise. And now we've come to the meat and potatoes of this Pokemon Violet Shiny Only Run, the Indigo Disc edition of my Shiny Badge Quest. While fishing for league points while completing Blueberry Quest, I couldn't resist but head to this top of the rock on this Lion King reference, standing next to a male Pyroar. While still completing some BBQs, I stumbled across my first shiny Pokemon out of the corner of my eye in the terrarium while accidentally running into a Pikipek. I was not targeting this particular Pokemon in the coastal biome, but like I said earlier, it's a random encounter, so I had to take what the game was giving me. And what the game gave me in this case was a shiny Slackoff lying on the beach in a pack of 5. Trying to catch all my shiny Pokemon in different Pokeballs, for the first time during this run, I used an Ultra Ball for the capture. And what is truly a solid normal type once it fully evolves into Slackhang. This Slackoff had the mild nature, and also my second shiny within this run that came with a mark. And which mark did I get on this Slackoff, you might ask? I think it's pretty appropriate. The lunchtime mark. When I completed the main story in the Shiny Badge Quest, at the start of the post-game, I got my first Master Ball. Then I got a second one by completing the Blueberry Pokedex, which leads me to my first real serious hunt within the terrarium. I made a Steel Level 3 Sparkling Title and Humongous Sandwich at Level 3 in the hopes of maybe getting a jumbo-marked Shiny Beldum. With roughly 8 minutes to go in this sandwich, I managed to find this awesome pseudo-legendary from the Hoenn region, which has arguably the lowest catch rate of any Pokemon that's not a straight-up legendary. Which is why I made sure that when I found one within this mass outbreak after knocking out 60 plus, I wanted to zone in and catch this Beldum immediately by letting loose with one of my 2 Master Balls. And just like that, I managed to catch my favorite shiny Steel type when it fully evolves. And just like another pseudo-legendary that I caught within the Pokemon Violet Shiny Badge Quest portion of this run, this Beldum had the attack-boosting, defense-lowering Lonely nature, and also came with the ridiculously common Uncommon mark. And after feeding the future nicknamed Sale of the Century 2 rare candies, I now had one of my top 5 favorite shinies of all time, Metagross. I still felt the need for balance within all the shiny Pokemon I was catching within the terrarium. So back at the coastal biome, I popped the Fairy level 3 encounter power sandwich in the hopes of getting a shiny Cottony. And with just 5 minutes remaining in the sandwich, my prayers were answered, as I was able to catch only my second Fairy type within this run, joining Gardevoir in that category. Cottony also became my third grass shiny within this run, joining Lurantis and Leavanny, as I wasted little time in catching this shiny Cottony in a Moon Ball. My first time using this ball, and what was originally meant for my shiny Eevee, now Umbreon. This shiny Cottony ended up being a perfect one for my game plan for one of the 4 BB League Elite 4 members, coming with the defense boosting, speed lowering, relaxed nature, and even more importantly, the prankster ability. And after feeding it a shiny stone, it evolved into the whimsical Whimsicott. I named Whimsicott after the game show What's My Line, as I made my most impactful sandwich next, as I tried to fill in my first box with nothing but shiny Pokemon, making this Dragon level 3 sparkling title and encounter power sandwich in pursuit of my first target being a shiny Vibrava. I found one almost instantly after just 2 resets into the sandwich, while an angry Flygon found me, forcing me to scramble for a safe spot to save the game before encountering the shiny Vibrava, which is going to be a Flygon anyway. After hopping on top of this rock with Miraidon, it was time to catch yet another pseudo-legendary shiny. I used my first Great Ball within this run for the capture. With eons of time to spare, I had enough room to go for a second shiny dragon while the sandwich time was still active, as this shiny Vibrava came with the special defense boosting Calm Nature, and my second shiny with the Levitate ability joining Vikavolt. Now I headed to the Canyon biome in the hopes of going for another shiny dragon. The target was actually Altaria. However, the game gave me something even better. How ironic that this game gave me Nova vibes, even though I never played Pokemon Black, White, Black 2, or White 2, as I came across a shiny Fracture. I had to pull off the Legends Arceus backstrike technique to ensure that Fracture didn't spawn itself off screen by running away, just so that I could make sure to get the perfect thumbnail screenshot by encountering Fracture once again. And in one of the biggest surprise catches of them all, I managed to haul in this shiny Fracture in a Lure Ball, a Pokeball that is usually designed for catching Water-type Pokemon. And I guess this game loves giving me mild-natured shinies in the terrarium, just like my first catch of shiny Slackoff. And on top of that, Fracture also got the lunchtime mark, exactly like shiny Slackoff. There was amazingly still time left in the Dragon Sandwich, roughly 7 minutes worth, as I went into the coastal biome for the only dragon that spawns in the biome. And I found it. It was the tallest shiny Pokemon caught throughout the entire run, the Alolan regional form of Executor. This was probably my hardest shiny to catch throughout this run, considering it kept healing itself with Leech Seed. But ultimately, I caught shiny Alolan Executor in a repeat ball. I named this large tree trunk of a Pokemon after the 1980s short-lived game show Body Language, and it also came with the sassy nature. Then it was time for me to make some well-deserved evolutions. First, I nicknamed Shiny Fracture after the game show Child's Play, and evolved it into my favorite shiny dragon ever, Haxorus. Next up, I nicknamed my shiny for Brava after the 1990s game show Russian Roulette and evolved it with one rare candy to Shiny Flygon. And since Slackoff was my 21st shiny caught within this run, I named it after the Game Show Network original Catch 21 and evolved it all the way to Slacking. Now I decided to cover all 4 bases and go back to the polar biome, making a sparkling, tidal, and encounter power level 3 ice sandwich to go after another Pokemon that I specifically reserved for my other Master Ball in my favorite ice type in all of Pokemon, Lapras. I was able to brave the frozen tundra and find the shiny Lapras in a blizzard. And as Gardevoir traced its ability revealing that Lapras had water absorb, I backed away from Lapras for a moment in order to encounter it again for that perfect thumbnail screenshot. As you probably noticed a slight lag in the gameplay when I ran into the Lapras a second time, which was a constant reminder of the plaguing performance issues in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. But it didn't bother me there as I managed to use my second and final Master Ball to catch Shiny Lapras. Another Pokemon that I felt was vital in going up against the BB League Elite Four. Lapras had the neutral, quirky nature, and it also came with a mark. In this case, it ended up being the Dawn Mark. But I was not done yet as there were 3 more shiny Pokemon I felt I needed for this journey, as I went into the nearby Chargestone Cavern and popped a ground sandwich in hopes of getting Shiny Drillbur. 8 is my childhood favorite number, and roughly 19 minutes into the sandwich, I found my 8th shiny target within the terrarium. Normally, I always use a luxury ball for all the shinies I plan to use in playthroughs, but in this case, a luxury ball is perfect for Shiny Drillbur. And for those of you keeping score, Drillbur is my second shiny ground type within the terrarium, joining my now fully evolved Shiny Flygon. This Drillbur that I nicknamed after the game show Greed came with a defense-boosting, attack-lowering nature. A Unova region powerhouse that has grown on me, especially during this run, evolving this Drillbur to Shiny Excadrill. My first, third, and sixth shiny Pokemon caught within the terrarium during this run were in the coastal biome. My final 2 also came in the biome because I felt the need to use these 2 Pokemon within my journey in facing off against the BB League Elite Four. My 4th coastal biome shiny ended up being another Alolan region variant in Shiny Grimer. And just like my fully evolved Whimsicott, I caught this shiny Alolan Grimer in a Moon Ball. In the Pokemon Sun, Pokemon Moon, Ultra Sun, and Ultra Moon games, Alolan Grimer and eventually its evolved form Muck were absolute beasts in that game due to its Poison Dark dual typing. And when I went through the Indigo Disc DLC for the first time on my main Pokemon Violet run, Alolan Grimer was the first shiny I caught in the terrarium as a random encounter. Speaking of random encounters, here's one that I absolutely welcomed, considering I wasn't able to get this shiny Pokemon in the base game, another Hoenn standout, Shiny Torkoal. And just like Swalot during my badge quest, I have never used a Torkoal in any of my playthroughs of Pokemon games I've played before, so I wanted to give Torkoal its legitimate shot. Especially with the Drought ability powering up its Fire-type moves, it's going to come in handy for one of the BB League Elite Four battles. Being my slowest shiny Pokemon of the bunch, and my 10th and final shiny caught within the terrarium, this Torkoal, ironically enough, got the speed-boosting timid nature and was my 3rd shiny with the lunchtime mark caught in the Blueberry Academy. I evolved my shiny Alolan Grimer, nicknamed after the game show Chain Reaction, into shiny Alolan Muck, while also naming my shiny Torkoal after the game show Split Second. Finally catching up with Lacey at the Coastal Biome classroom, my assignment was simply to catch an lowland region variant. Well, consider this assignment finished, and I guess you can say it was truly a walk in the park. My knack for catching Pokemon, let alone shiny Pokemon, finally started to catch the attention of Lacey. My time at the Blueberry Academy was rapidly improving by leaps and bounds, a much better difference from my first early initiation into the academy. Lacey had to split for now, but right after she left, I got another unsuspecting phone call, this time from another old friend from Kitakami, Carmine. She must have heard through the grapevine that I was the only one from Uva Academy selected into the Blueberry Academy's exchange program. Carmine wanted me to meet up with her so we could reminisce and reunite at Central Plaza. My mind was telling me to blow her off, but honesty is definitely the best policy, as I actually missed Carmine's face. I also missed beating Carmine's teams into oblivion, as she challenged me to a double battle, where I now had a little more experience with due to those battles with Ghost-type Gym Leader Rhyme back in the Paldea region. Carmine brought out Kieran and Mightyena, the latter of which was planning on doing a double intimidating strategy, which I countered perfectly by bringing in Shiny Gardevoir and Vikavolt, two special attackers. Not that it made any bit of a difference. Gardevoir's traceability threw Carmine's double intimidate strategy right back at her, as Gardevoir eliminated Mightyena with a dazzling gleam, and a thunderbolt from Vikavolt took care of Kieran. The domination of my favorite bug from Alola and Hoenn's #1 psychic type that gained the fairy typing in Gen 6 only served to continue, even though Carmine finally showed she can terrestrialize her Pokemon, in this case her ace Sinistra, into a Terra Grass type. I responded in kind by terrestrializing my Vikavolt into Terra Electric. I remained on the aggressive as Gardevoir struck both of Carmine's final two Pokemon with Dazzling Gleam, which was quite effective in wiping out Scrafty. Even though electric attacks are not very effective against grass types, the base special attack power of 145 on Vikavolt, which is pretty much like legendary, was still powerful enough to win the battle, as my destructive special attacking menaces completed a clean sweep of Carmine's team. Then after a short chat, we noticed something slightly disturbing from a distance. It was Kieran, who definitely looked a lot different and sounded a lot different from when I saw him in Kitakami. It was truly a sight that I didn't expect to see, and Carmine gave me all the deets, as someone else from a distance that came to Central Plaza felt that was truly painful to watch. That someone turned out to be Drayton, a young man that Carmine begrudgingly introduced me to, who was the strongest trainer in the Blueberry Academy. That is, until he ran into Kieran. Drayton showed me to the League Club room, and then Carmine showed me to my dorm room, where I was going to have a short stay in. I made a pact with Carmine to look after Kieran throughout my run in Blueberry Academy. And if Drayton at any point got out of line, Carmine gave me her permission to give him a good old sucker punch, as I met up with Drayton in the BB League cafeteria, as he wanted to get me to join the League Club. Showing up in the cafeteria as well were the rest of the Elite Four and Champion Kieran, who was pretty much stunned to see me in the cafeteria. Drayton was seemingly the only one in my corner as they put my acceptance into the League Club to a vote. Drayton was obviously a yes. Lacey unfortunately shunned me. Crispin, the young man with a frying pan, was a yay, while Amaris, the cool young lady with the shades, was another nay. It was 2 versus 2. Not only did I get the winning vote from the champion himself, much to the chagrin of Lacey, I might add, Kieran also stepped up to the plate for me when Drayton tried to sign me into the League Club. Despite the thrashing I received from Lacey in my first visit to the academy, I was immediately put into a higher ranking, which gave me the right to challenge the BB League Elite Four at all their respective biomes. There was no secret who I wanted to defeat the most, but I decided to go to the Savannah biome first. It's finally time to square off against the BB League Elite Four, and I decided to take on Crispin, the fiery, hot-headed cook, first. His two leads are Talonflame and Rotom Heat, and I decided to counter with Russian Roulette, my shiny Flygon, and Gladiator, my shiny Lapras. To start off, I had Lapras use Protect on turn 1, and called for Flygon to set up Stealth Rock, so that every other Pokemon on Crispin's team took damage when they were subbed in. Talonflame hit Flygon with a powerful Brave Bird. And as the Stealth Rocks were released, Rotom also targeted Flygon with Will-O-Wisp to half Flygon's attack. Talonflame sets up the Sun on the next turn with Sunny Day, before getting struck by Flygon's Dragon Claw. And as Rotom targeted Flygon again with Hex, a Surf brought Flygon dangerously low, while also putting Talonflame in the red. With the burn from Will-O-Wisp lowering Flygon to 34 HP, I made the substitution and brought in one of my old reliable shinies from the base game, Pyramid, my shiny Cloth. Once again, I had Lapras go for Protect, knowing that Rotom has Thunderbolt. Cloth took a less effective Brave Bird from Talonflame and a Hex from Rotom, the latter of which would have knocked Flygon out if it stayed in. Talonflame healed up a bit with Roost before Rotom used the Will-O-Wisp again to burn Cloth. I decided to double up my attacks on both Pokemon with Rock Slide from Cloth and a Surf from Lapras. Rotom avoided the Rock Slide, but both attacks put down Talonflame. Unfortunately, Surf also hit Cloth, and with both Pokemon on my team weak to Grass, Crispin immediately brought out Exeggutor to once again set up the Sun. I subbed out Lapras in favor of another veteran, Match Game, my shiny Ceruledge. Cloth was brought down to 1 HP with Hex, surviving on the power of friendship before wiping out Rotom with a Rock Tomb. This one-turn Sunny Day boosted Solar Beam from Exeggutor should have knocked out Cloth, who toughed it out yet again before the burn from Will-O-Wisp finally put Cloth down. With 5 Pokemon remaining to Crispin's 4, I still felt confident as Crispin brought out his Camerupt. I decided to bring in yet another veteran, Cardsharks, my shiny Garchomp. As Camerupt took some chip damage from Stealth Rock, a powerful crush from Garchomp immediately put Exeggutor into the red, but it then healed up with a held Citrus Berry. A Leer from Ceruledge lowered both opposing Pokemon's defenses by 1. Garchomp ate a Solar Beam before Ceruledge was taken down incredibly low with a super effective Earth Power. On the next turn, I wanted to get Exeggutor out of the battle immediately, but unfortunately I double attacked into a Protect, opening the door for Camerupt to knock out Ceruledge with 1 more Earth Power, and suddenly the battle was even. With Garchomp still at good HP, I decided to keep the Dominator from Sinnoh in the battle, and brought in one of my all-time favorites from Kanto, Lapras, still at full HP. On the very next turn, I finally rid myself of that pesky Exeggutor with 1 more crush from Garchomp to take it out. And with the harsh sunlight fading, I clicked on Surf, which was quite effective to wash away Camerupt, and now I'm ahead in the battle, 4 Pokemon remaining to Crispin's 2, which were Magmortar and the Hoenn Fire starter Blaziken. Lapras clearly was my MVP for this battle, so I decided to sub out Garchomp and counter Blaziken with a water starter from Kalos. That's right, it's Alola, my shiny Greninja. With Crispin now in dire straits, he brought out his trusty Frying Pan, charging up that Terror Orb to try to light up the battle with Blaziken. Once again, I had Lapras use Protect to bait out at least 1, if not 2, super effective attacks. Magmortar sets up the Sun for the 3rd time, and Blaziken went with Stone Edge, which would have done serious damage to Lapras. Magmortar has Thunderbolt in its moveset, but instead of terrestrializing Lapras, I decided to terrestrialize Greninja instead to try to power up a loaded dice boosted Water Shuriken. The first one scored a critical hit. The held item loaded dice guaranteed at least 4 hits from Water Shuriken, but I managed to get all 5 in. Blaziken then hit Lapras with the new move Temper Flare, before a Thunderbolt from Magmortar cut down more than half of Greninja's health. I then unleashed my secret weapon to guarantee victory by having Lapras play a Perish song, and everyone who heard it was on the clock for the next 3 turns. Well, everyone except Greninja. As Blaziken got another speed boost, I subbed out Greninja and brought back in Garchomp to deal with Magmortar. Now it was all a matter of making careful decisions and timely substitutions. One of those decisions was once again having Lapras protect itself. The Temper Flare from Blaziken went right into the Protect, while Magmortar foolishly went for Thunderbolt against the Ground type, putting everyone's Perish count except for Garchomp's at 2. After friendship dodging Blaziken's Focus Blast, Garchomp eliminated Magmortar from the battle with a Rock Tomb. I could have easily had Lapras conclude matters with Surf, but I decided to make Crispin suffer even more by washing away the sun with Rain Dance. To Crispin's credit, however, my team still took a beating. I decided to pull out the double switch, subbing out both Garchomp and Lapras to ensure the latter would not faint to its own Perish song. I brought back out my shiny Greninja to replace Garchomp, and then subbed out Lapras for my shiny Flygon, which unfortunately turned out to be a sacrifice that was well worth it. Blaziken knocked out Flygon with Stone Edge to get one more attack before Blaziken's Perish count fell all the way down to 0. And as Blaziken succumbed to Lapras' Perish song, I scored my first victory in the BB League Elite Four, with only 3 more members left to defeat. After receiving the Temper Flare TM, Crispin encouraged me to crank up the heat, which was exactly what I was looking to do against my next chosen opponent in the BB League Elite Four Gauntlet. Next on my BB League Elite Four agenda was Amaris, a young lady cool as a cucumber and the master of steel types. I sent out my chosen tag team of Split Second, my shiny Torkoal, and Hollywood Squares, my shiny Vikavolt, to do battle against Amaris' leads Alolan Dugtrio and Skarmory. I decided to start off things hot, with Torkoal's route abilities setting up a free sunny day, and Torkoal protected on the first turn to protect itself from Dugtrio's Earthquake, which also was not going to hit Vikavolt due to its Levitate ability. As Skarmory set up Stealth Rocks, I had Vikavolt set up a Sticky Web. Dugtrio again went for Earthquake, this time striking Torkoal for super effective damage. Skarmory also hit with a Body Press before being brought down to its sturdy from Vikavolt's Thunderbolts. I decided to have Torkoal strike for the first time in the bout, unleashing a powerful eruption boosted by the sun to get rid of Skarmory and bring Dugtrio all the way down to its Focus Sash. With Torkoal still on the field, Amaris then called upon the water starter from Sinnoh that doubles as a steel type, Empoleon, the final evolution of Piplup. I decided to unleash a shiny that I hadn't used the entire run, and I decided to let's make a deal by bringing in my shiny Furret. Furret's time in the spotlight was brief, but it still played an important role in the bout as Torkoal protected once again, shielding itself from both the Hydro Pump from Empoleon and Dugtrio's Stone Edge, either of which would have put out Torkoal's flames. I knew I needed Torkoal down the line for later in the battle, so I decided to make a switch and brought in Russian Roulette, my shiny Flygon, to deal with Dugtrio. The Alolan region that originally was from Kanto decided to attack with Stone Edge, which would have knocked Torkoal out. I then had Furret tidy things up to get rid of the Stealth Rock set up by Amaris' Skarmory. It also got rid of Vikavolt's Sticky Web, which lowered the speed of Empoleon when it subbed in. At that point, Furret did its job, so I decided to sub Furret out and bring back out shiny Vikavolt to deal with Empoleon. Dugtrio did some significant damage to Flygon with an Iron Head, before it went down to Flygon's Earthquake, also taking half of Empoleon's HP away. Empoleon eliminated Flygon from the battle with a quad-effective Ice Beam. As the harsh sunlight faded away, Amaris brought in her only non-steel type Pokemon Reuniting into battle, as I decided to counter with Card Sharks my shiny Garchomp. Garchomp's Crunch eliminated half of Reuniclus's health before Vikavolt's Thunderbolt took out Empoleon, leaving Amaris with just 3 Pokemon left. Reuniclus's first act was setting up Trick Room, which was the beginning of the end for Amaris. As she brought in the hard-hitting, defensive-minded Scizor into play, I subbed out Vikavolt to bring back in Torkoal. Now everything was going according to plan. Garchomp took a Psychic from Reuniclus and even got a special defense drop. But it didn't matter as Garchomp eliminated Reuniclus with Crunch, leaving Amaris with just 2 Pokemon left. Torkoal confidently took a resisted Pounce from Scizor, forcing Amaris to summon her ace a la the Hoenn champion Steven, Metagross, who she wasted little time in terastallizing into a pure Steel type. I decided to terastallize Garchomp into Terra Ground, and I am so happy I made that decision. I had Torkoal protect itself on this turn. Metagross struck Garchomp with an Ice Punch, which would have been quad effective and knocked Garchomp out if I didn't terastallize. Garchomp responded in kind by delivering a powerful Earthquake to one-hit KO Metagross from the equation. To Scizor's credit, it survived the tremors, but not even an Oka Berry to weaken the damage from Fire-type moves was going to save Scizor from being burnt to a crisp by a quad effect of Eruption from Torkoal, earning me the victory over Amaris, making me 2-0 against the BB League Elite Four. With a relatively convincing victory, I inched myself another step closer to completing Pokemon Violet and both its DLCs using only shiny Pokemon. My next target was an obvious one. I was now going back to the coastal biome to get another shot at defeating Lacey. Lacey promised to hold nothing back in this rematch, and I wasn't going to either. Lacey was about to learn the harsh reality that revenge is best served stone cold. So with that in mind, I decided to bring out Double Dare, my shiny Swalot, and Sale of the Century, my shiny Metagross, to combat against her Whimsicott and Granbull. The latter of the two leads has the Intimidate ability, which lowers opposing Pokemon's attack stats by 1, but Metagross's Clear Body ability prevented that from happening. To put my strategy in motion, I had Swalot protect itself. The prankster Whimsicott set up a light screen, which Metagross ate for breakfast with Psychic Fangs before taking a Fire Punch from Granbull. Whimsicott set up light screen again, allowing for Metagross to one-shot Granbull with a powerful Meteor Mash. Then I made Whimsicott completely useless for the next 3 turns by having Swalot hit Whimsicott with an Encore. Predictably, Lacey brought out her Galarian Slowbro as I countered with my Slowbro Stopper, Chain Reaction, my shiny Alolan Muck, who confidently took a Flamethrower. Then I employed some Toxic Stalling as Swalot badly poisoned Whimsicott, allowing Muck to heal itself with a held Black Sludge. The effects of poisoning and Encore were plaguing Whimsicott. Muck hit Slowbro with a powerful knockoff to get rid of its Citrus Berry before Swalot put Whimsicott out of its misery with a Sludge Bomb. A Psychic from Slowbro severely damaged Swalot before Lacey brought out another problematic Pokemon on her team, the water starter from Alola, Primarina. Knowing another Psychic wasn't coming, I had Swalot protect itself while Muck badly poisoned Primarina with Toxic. A Majestic Moonblast took off a chunk of Muck's HP as the Psychic obviously went right into the Protect. After healing a bit with Black Sludge and realizing I liked the Kanto Slowbro better, I had Muck slap the Galarian knockoff into Fatedville, before Primarina delivered another Moonblast, taking Muck down to less than half its HP. Another Sludge Bomb from Swalot and more toxic damage continued to sap away at Primarina's health, forcing Lacey to bring in Alcremie to battle next, as I also made a substitution, playing the feud with my shiny Lucario. Once again, I had Swalot go for Protect, which proved to be beneficial, as both Alcremie and Primarina targeted Swalot, with the latter's Hyper Voice attack only striking Lucario. Primarina got an additional special attack boost due to a Held Throat Spray before taking even more damage from Toxic, putting Primarina deep into the red. On the next turn, I had Lucario use Detect. In an act of desperation, Lacey had Alcremie decorate Primarina to give her a +3 in special attack, before Alcremie got poisoned with Swalot's Toxic. My degenerate strategy was paying off as Primarina's last act was a Moonblast that hopelessly went into Lucario's Detect before Primarina succumbed to poison. With only 2 Pokemon remaining, Lacey called upon her hard-hitting ace Pokemon Excadrill into battle, and immediately terastallized the ground Steel type from the Unova region into Terra Fairy. In one last act of bravado, I decided to disrespect Lacey to the max by terastallizing Lucario into Terra fighting. At this point in the fight, Lacey was pretty much sick of Swalot, so she had her Excadrill score a KO with a dose of high horsepower. In retaliation, her Alcremie got knocked out with one swift Meteor Mash from Lucario. Losing Swalot was all part of the plan, as I decided to sub in my own shiny counterpart to Lacey's ace with Greed, my shiny Excadrill. Without even wasting a breath, I had Lucario use Detect once again, figuring that Lacey was going to target the now fighting Terra Lucario with a Fairy Terra boosted Terra Blast. And Lacey fell right into my trap, allowing my shiny Excadrill to claim victory for my team and vindication for me as a trainer with one destructive Iron Head. This truly was my greatest strategic performance in any Pokemon battle, much less a double battle, as I obtained my third consecutive victory over a BB League Elite Four leader. In spite of my malicious intent to utterly crush Lacey's spirit in that last bout, thankfully she didn't hold it against me, which made me feel really good as a Pokemon trainer. Even after Lacey shockingly shunned me in the BB League cafeteria voting process. I didn't hold that against Lacey either, and considering she's a Fairy type leader, Fairy is my favorite typing, making Lacey my favorite BB League Elite Four leader. After receiving the TM for the new Fairy move Alluring Voice, Lacey made me promise her to knock Drayden's laid-back confidence down a notch, and knowing that the polar biome was my next destination, I was more than glad to oblige her. Upon arrival into the polar biome, I was about to exchange 50 PP to accept the challenge to face Drayden. However, Drayden was one step ahead of me, as he decided to charge my 50 BP to his account. That way we could get started with his Elite Trial. A trial that initially caught me off guard during my first playthrough of the Indigo Disc story. It's a terrarium-only challenge, where you have to use Pokemon caught within the terrarium against Drayton's 3 trainers, and you have to have your OT name attached to all of them. Let's see how that went about really quick. Completely acing Drayton's terrarium-only Elite Challenge, I was now firmly standing on business. Remembering the promise I made to Lacey and my own reputation as the true top champion of the Paldea region on the line, I boldly challenged Drayton to a serious double battle against this team full of fire-breathing dragons. The first 2 of which being Flygon and Dragonite. So I decided to counter his 2 dragons with a pair of fairies. The Price is Right, my shiny Gardevoir, and What's My Line, my shiny Whimsicott. Gardevoir traced Dragonite's hidden ability Multiscale, which proved to be beneficial when Dragonite struck first with extreme speed. Flygon hit everyone but Dragonite on the field with Earthquake, after Whimsicott smartly used Cotton Guard to boost its defense by 3 stages. Gardevoir then connected with Icy Wind, which is quite effective on both dragons, instantly wiping out Flygon from the battle with a critical hit. Dragonite took less damage due to Multiscale and the Held Berry, but the side effects still lowered Dragonite's speed. True to Unova form, Drayton brought out Haxorus next, and knowing Gardevoir would instantly get eradicated by an Iron Head, I subbed out Gardevoir in favor of the Joker's Wild, my shiny Mismagius. After Dragonite's extreme speed missed due to Ghost immunity, Whimsicott locked Dragonite into that move with Encore. Mismagius then ate an Iron Head, and now seeing Whimsicott as a legit threat, Drayton attacked Whimsicott with 2 straight moves before Whimsicott's Moonblast brought Haxorus down to its focus sash. A dazzling gleam from Mismagius took out Haxorus and brought Dragonite down to half its HP. Dragonite struck for one more extreme speed before being eliminated by another Moonblast from Whimsicott as Sceptile was brought into battle. Mismagius harshly lowered the Hoenn starter's special defense with Fake Tears before taking a Leaf Storm, which also harshly lowered the special attack of Sceptile once Drayton summoned Kingdra into the battle next. Reminding Drayton of one of his own fainted dragons, I brought out Child's Play, my shiny Haxorus, into battle, as Whimsicott locked Sceptile into Leaf Storm with Encore. Probably feeling insulted by my substitution, Drayton eliminated my Whimsicott with a powerful Hurricane from Kingdra. Wanting to play nice for a change, I decided to bring in Body Language, my shiny Alolan Executor, into the battle. Sceptile continued to further weaken its special attack stat with another Leaf Storm targeting Haxorus and putting its special attack down to a -6 before Haxorus weakened Kingdra with a Dragon Pulse. Executor then gets annihilated by an Expert Belt boosted quad effective Ice Beam, forcing me to summon Gardevoir back into action. The substitution proved timely as Gardevoir traced Sceptile's Unburden ability and barely suffered a scratch from a nerfed Leaf Storm. After Sceptile took a Dragon Claw, Gardevoir sealed Kingdra's fate permanently with a Draining Kiss. The Encore torture from Whimsicott finally was over, as Drayton brought out his ace Pokemon, Duraludon's new Gen 9 evolution, Archaludon. At that point, I felt Gardevoir had done enough, so I made another switch, and bringing in my MVP from the battle with Crispin, Gladiator, my shiny Lapras. Whimsicott made a strong case for itself in being my most valuable Pokemon for this bout. But in this last sequence, you can also make that same claim for my now terrestrialized Haxorus. Wanted to make his strong Pokemon even stronger, Drayton also terrestrialized Archaludon into becoming a pure Dragon type. Sceptile scored a crit with X-Scissor, but I locked Haxorus into Outrage, which was powerful enough to obliterate Archaludon in a single hit. Drayton knew he was finished, so he went for one more Leaf Storm with Sceptile on Lapras, as Haxorus proved itself to be the ultimate closer by finishing off Sceptile with Outrage. I actually clicked Perish Song on this turn with Lapras, but those vocal cords were ultimately not needed, as I completed a clean sweep of the BB League Elite Four. To make this somewhat interesting for myself, I did not feed a single EV improving vitamin to any of the 30 shiny Pokemon I caught within this shiny-only run of Pokemon Violet, despite leveling them all up to 100 at the start of the Indigo Disc DLC storyline. And now the stage was set for one final battle, with a flashback to Teal Mask's past. Now more determined than ever, and laser-focused as the BB League champion, it was time for one more epic duel with my old pal Kieran, and all of Blueberry Academy will be watching. To borrow a line from Galar Region champion Leon, I'm about to have some champion time. This is an official BB League announcement. A championship match is about to take place. If you would like to watch, please make your way to the battle court. The BB League champion Kieran arrives, beating everybody down that faced him in the Blueberry Academy on the way to becoming champion, driven by the fact that back in his hometown of Kitakami, he could not beat me. Taking my steps back onto the battle court, I was reminded of the fact of how cruel double battles are in the Blueberry Academy when I was rudely destroyed by Lacey's Plusle and Minun when I was building my team during my Violet Shiny badge quest. When I looked at Kieran before making my first move, I planned on giving him that same type of humiliation, in order to snap Kieran out of his arrogant attitude that even alienated his own sister Carmine. So I brought out a trusty veteran crew of 6 shiny Pokémon, eager to make a resounding statement, as Kieran let out a primal scream, revealing his 2 lead Pokémon were Politoed and Dragonite. I decided to lead with Loterialoka, my shiny Greninja, and Hollywood Squares, my shiny Vikavolt. One thing I knew not to do was take Kieran lightly, as Politoed sets up the rain with Drizzle and immediately gave Dragonite a helping-handed boost. My first call of the match was have Greninja deliver a quad-effective Ice Beam to Dragonite, which also turned Greninja into an Ice type due to its protein ability. Dragonite hit a 100% accurate Thunder, which was no longer super effective on Greninja. But unfortunately for Kieran, I had that same thought in mind, as this Politoed got struck down immediately in one hit with a thunderous response from Vikavolt. Hoping to even the score, Kieran immediately threatened Vikavolt's existence by bringing in the Alolan Fire starter intimidating Incineroar. Taking somewhat of a risk myself, I brought in my own fire Pokemon into the fray, Match Game, my shiny Ceruledge. Incineroar faked out Greninja, getting a flinch, and with the rain still up, Dragonite struck Ceruledge with a 100% accurate Hurricane, also leaving Ceruledge confused. Fortunately, that was the last move Dragonite would make, as Greninja eliminated Dragonite from the equation with another Ice Beam. Ceruledge broke through confusion as I went for a Will-O-Wisp that was meant for the now knocked out Dragonite, and I nearly paid for that mistake as a powerful Darkest Lariat left Ceruledge down to just 1 HP due to the power of friendship. After realizing how lucky I was to not lose Ceruledge, I took yet another gamble as I decided to play Family Feud with my shiny Lucario, while Kieran brought out a Life Orb holding Porygon Z. With the rain still active, I had Greninja use Water Shuriken on Incineroar, getting 4 hits thanks to the held item Loaded Dice, leaving Incineroar low before healing up back to green with a Citrus Berry. Lucario took a Shadow Ball and avoided Darkest Lariat, so I had Lucario use Detect on the next turn. With the rain still up, Greninja went for another Water Shuriken, even scoring a crit on the first hit, while the remaining 3 hits was enough to take Incineroar out. Porygon Z's Hyper Beam went right into Lucario's Detect as the rain finally stopped. Kieran brought in his screen-setting wizard Grimmsnarl into the battle next. I felt I was in complete control of the bout now as I subbed out Greninja for Password, my shiny Corviknight. Grimmsnarl set up a Reflect, while Porygon Z again went for Hyper Beam, missing Lucario, a fatal mistake that Lucario capitalized on, knocking out Porygon Z with a close combat, lowering Lucario's own defenses in the process. Turning from annoyingly arrogant to downright delusional, Kieran felt like he still had me where he wanted me when he brought out his #1 Pokemon, the newest new evolution of Applin, Hydrapple. Reality immediately set in when I brought out my #1 Pokemon responsible for nearly all of the beatings I gave Kieran and Kitakami, the Price is Right, my shiny Gardevoir, who immediately traced the super sweet syrup ability, lowering the evasiveness of both Grimmsnarl and Hydrapple, which Kieran decided to terrestrialize into Terra Fighting. I had Corviknight hit Grimmsnarl with an Iron Head that was nerfed by the Reflect, while the Earth Power used by Hydrapple that was meant for Lucario couldn't even hit Gardevoir. Kieran just could not catch a break as I terrestrialized Gardevoir into Terra Fairy. Sensing victory, Gardevoir hit both Pokemon with a Terra-boosted Dazzling Gleam, Grimmsnarl was knocked out, while Hydrapple survived. I barely gave Hydrapple a tickle with a thief from Corviknight thinking Hydrapple was holding an item. Hydrapple retaliated with a Terra Blast, which did some significant damage to Corviknight. After making one final switch, I had Gardevoir finish off the fight in style, making a lot of psychic noise. Playing a tune that was oh so familiar, Kieran suffered a humbling defeat, enabling me to dethrone him as the new BB League champion of the Blueberry Academy. It was a satisfying victory for all my shiny Pokemon that came with me to the battle. This was also a rewarding victory for Gardevoir and Ceruledge, two of the Pokemon that also took a loss when I was facing Lacey on my early visit to Blueberry Academy. As Kieran was brought down to his knees, everyone was in a complete state of stunned silence, watching the BB League champion get dethroned by an exchange student from Uva Academy in the Paldea region. As far as the BB League Elite Four was concerned, Crispin was blinded by the fact of how awesome the match was, before getting a stern talking to from Lacey, who could not stop Drayden, who was full of glee on the inside as he walked up to a disconsolate and dejected Kieran, cruelly reminding him that he is now officially an ex-BB League champion. Still in utter disbelief, Kieran still felt like he could beat me if given a rematch. I tried to find the right words for Kieran to try to cheer him up, but ultimately, I really had nothing to say, as my performance in that BB League Championship match spoke for itself. Another important announcement was blaring over the loudspeakers. It even announced that Kieran was still the BB League champion. Drayden still felt the need for an update, immediately getting scolded for his thoughts by Lacey. What that important announcement was, I was called into Classroom 3-2 to meet up with Briar once again. For the first time since finishing the Teal Mask DLC storyline, I reunited with Blueberry Academy teacher Briar in her classroom. She congratulated me on becoming the new BB League champion, which is an unfortunate reminder of what Kieran once was. The announcement that Briar gave myself, Carmine, Kieran, and Drayden while in the classroom was that she was granted access to explore Area Zero back home in Paldea. Not only to investigate the terrestrial phenomenon, but to have a phenomenal encounter with the legendary Terapagos. Making a surprise guest visit was top champion Gita and Rika from the Elite Four. Gita handed over to me the Indigo disc, and it was onward back to Paldea to explore Area Zero once again with Briar, Carmine, and Kieran. We made it all the way down to the deepest depths of Area Zero, which was a breathtaking sight to behold. That's when I also found out through Briar about the new stellar Terra type. I needed to press on to the lowest depths of this treacherous cavern, and along the way we encountered 4 wild Pokémon, all with the stellar Terra type. Various shiny Pokémon that I brought with me to Area Zero made quick work of these 4 stellar wild Terra Pokémon: Glamora, Noivern, Iron Thorns, and Garganacl. And once the latter Pokemon was defeated, the final blocked passageway was shattered, granting myself, Carmine, Kieran, and Briar the liberty of advancing on through, where we found a mysterious crystal. Kieran and Briar could not control themselves as they hurriedly rushed over to this crystal, once again giving Kieran grand illusions of thinking he can defeat me in battle. Kieran stronged on his way to removing the crystal from its pedestal, and as Kieran held it upward, a blinding light started to illuminate, revealing the legendary Pokemon Terapagos, one of the cutest turtles I've ever seen in a video game. Terapagos fixed its eyes and began to approach me, when Kieran shockingly threw a Master Ball at Terapagos, catching what he eventually thought in his mind, the golden ticket to finally best me in a Pokemon battle. As Kieran's eyes looked at that Master Ball with pride and amazement upon his latest capture, he immediately challenged me to an impromptu battle. This was my first look at Terapagos in battle mode, as I brought out my best Pokemon that has been with me virtually through the entire run, The Price is Right, my shiny Gardevoir. After trading attacks, Gardevoir won this battle of attrition with a terrestrialized Moonblast, giving me yet another victory over the former BB League champion. At the request of Briar, Kieran terrestrialized Terapagos with his Terra Orb, and that's when everything went haywire. Due to the shock and awe of everyone in the room, we were now staring face to face with the true terrestrial form of the hidden treasure of Area Zero. Carmine suggested Kieran return Terapagos to its Master Ball, but the power of Terapagos was just too great, and the Master Ball completely snapped in half. Now I was subjected to the ultimate Terra Raid battle that not even the Terra Raid Crystal Den could hold, as I decided to use Family Feud, my shiny Lucario, to combat the first phase, with Terapagos being a part normal type. A terrestrialized Drain Punch ended the first part of the bout, before Terapagos absorbed all of my terrestrial energy, changing into a Psychic type. It then used a Zen Headbutt to render Carmine helpless for the remainder of the bout, and all of her Pokemon needing a trip to the Pokemon Center. In the second phase, Blockbusters, my shiny Luxray, sacrificed itself for the greater good and breaking the second shield with a terrestrialized Wild Charge. Coming out of his own emotional shell, Kieran finally decided to suck it up and assist me for the third and final phase, where Terapagos absorbs my terrestrial energy one last time, changing into a water type, making it the perfect time for me to bring out High Rollers, my shiny Lurantis. Kieran also brought forth his Hydrapple. Being a grass dragon type, it gives Hydrapple a quad resistance to water, as I use my Terra Orb for the final time, terrestrializing Lurantis into a powerful grass type. The terrestrialization gave Lurantis' Leaf Blade extra juice, slicing through the shield and defeating the legendary Terapagos. Now that Terapagos was brought down to size back to its Terra Shift form, it gave me the opportunity to catch Terapagos. And fittingly enough, I decided to use my favorite Pokeball, the Luxury Ball. This outstanding capture officially concludes the first time I ever finished an entire Pokemon game using only shiny Pokemon. To all of you who decided to take in this experience with me, I sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart, especially if you watch this from the beginning to the end. And if you like this, be sure to leave a like. And if you are a newcomer, be sure to click on that subscribe button, because every subscription tells me that I am doing something right and will inspire me to want to make even more amazing gaming content. Also, if you so choose, let me know which of the 30 shiny Pokemon I caught on this journey of Pokemon Violet that made the most impact in the comments. Once again, a very special heartfelt thank you to artist and streamer Ember Z Painter for the amazing channel art that she generously made for me. She is excellent at what she does, so as a favor to me, go to Ember Z Painter's YouTube channel and subscribe to her as well, as she so richly deserves it. And as always, take care, God bless you all, and keep on shining.